Do you ever get mad when reading a book, when the content of the book upsets you and angers you and just wants to make you shake your fist? Well, I had a shake your fist moment reading this week because I read a banned book and I was really upset that that book was banned. Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and this is my reading wrap-up for June 22nd, all the books that I read last week. I want to start by talking about the book that made me a little angry. That is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. This is a graphic memoir written by a woman who grew up in Iran as a young girl and eventually fled to France. And this is a story that starts when she is about 10 years old, and it takes her up to about 13 or maybe 14. And it just tells the story of a life of a young girl growing up in Iran and all the cultural crud that was going down in Iran, the Islamic takeover. Now, her parents were quite the liberals. They were intellectuals. They liked to play cards. They liked to listen to music. They liked to dance. And, oh, Allah forbid, drink alcohol. And there is quite an amusing scene in here when the parents are pulled over in driving, and one of the Revolutionary Guards, I'm not sure the exact terms that they use, but we'll just call them the Revolutionary Guards, wants to know if they have any alcohol in their home. Now, yes, they do have wine in their home. So they concoct this plan where the father is going to be talking with the Revolutionary Guard, and the women are going to go into the apartment and dump all the wine down the toilet. And they do so, and the father comes in without the Revolutionary Guard. He says, no, he just wanted some money. You didn't flush the wine down the toilet, did you? Yeah, they did. Well, that's the kind of life they had. And the reason this book is banned is a little uncertain. I know it was banned in Chicago. I know it was banned in Pennsylvania. It's probably been banned in a couple other places. But honestly, there is nothing even close to being ban-worthy in this book. There is a teeny picture of a penis. There is a scene where a man is on his hands and knees. He's in his skivvies. His back has been whipped, and there is a guard above him. The guard is peeing on the man's back, and you can see a little itty bitty tiny penis picture. Could that ban this book? Maybe, probably not. I think this book is banned because it shows not only liberal parents disobeying the standard religion, but it also shows the people in a bad light who want to do this banning. And the people, or not the banning, but control the country through their Islamic creed. Now, the United States does not have the Islamic, guards out here, but they do have the white Christian nationalists who would, if they ever got to power, behave in the exact same way as these Revolutionary Guards do in Persepolis. And that, I think, is one of the real reasons this book gets banned, because the parents see themselves being shown in a poor light for their forcing of a religion and their edicts on other people. That is my reason for I think it's banned. I don't have any absolute concrete proof for that, but that is my opinion. And that is why it makes me mad. Why are these parents, these bombs for liberty, saying, you can't read this book? Because this book is absolutely fine for younger people to read. in my humble opinion. It is absolutely fine for adults to read because it shows you what it's like to be an intellectual, a liberal, trying to live in a country where you are being ruled by a theocracy. And that makes me mad. And people should not ban this book. It should be freely available to anyone who wants to read this. Now, when I return this book to the library on Monday, I'm going to pick up volume 2 of this memoir, which will take place right after the narrator has been dropped off in Europe. I finished reading A Posthumous Confession by Marcellus Emantis, translated from the Dutch by J.M. Coetzee. Yes, that is the J.M. Coetzee that won the Nobel Prize in Literature. He translated this around 1986, so that's before he really got kicked off into his super famous writing on his own, I believe. And this is the story of a young Dutchman. He is sort of angry with the world. He doesn't fit in. He doesn't feel like he's a part of society, and he's broody. But he's trying to make his way. And he meets a beautiful young woman who plays the piano. And he decides on a whim, why don't I marry that beautiful young pianist? That would make a great life. All of a sudden, I would fit into society and be part of society and be a happy man. No, that's not how it turns out. This is a dark, this is a bleak, this is a dense Dostoevskian tale of a man driven to murder. And it is no big spoiler that he's going to murder his wife. You learn that on the first page of this book. But what I really liked about this book is the density, the minutia of his mind. You notice lots of little note tabs, and that's everything that's going on in this character's mind. There's not a whole lot of plot other than what's driving this man to eventually commit murder. I really liked it. It is going to be a little dense for some readers. It's going to be a little dark for some readers. But if you like your books dark and dense and broody and psychological with the hint of Dostoevsky, I can highly recommend it. This is June, so it is also June on the Range. So I would be remiss if I didn't read a Western for this week. And the Western I read was Blood on Silver, Edge number 5 by George G. Gilman. George G. Gilman is the pen name for a British man who decided one day after watching The Good and the Bad and the Ugly to start writing Western books. I do not believe he had ever read a Western book before watching that movie or writing his own. And these are hyper violent stories. Edge is a man who pulls no punches. He doesn't have a lot of sympathy for other people. He just wants to survive. And this starts off with him riding into a town. He's looking for some food and some water, and he happens to watch a bunch of bandits murder the whole town who are having a wedding reception. Men are killed, women are killed, children are killed. A woman is tortured to death because they believe this woman knows the location of a whole lot of silver. Well, these bandits don't get the location of the silver. Edge remains in hiding because he does not want to get involved with these 23 or 24 odd men because, he couldn't defeat them single-handedly. But in this story, these characters are going to come back. The silver is going to appear. Because this is a story, Edge is going to encounter these bandits again. This lost silver, it may just appear in this story. And Edge is certainly going to try to get his hands on it. This is the 5th book in the series, and I've had hits or misses reading this series. This one is more of a hit. It's only about 112 pages long. Some people might even consider that more of a novella, but I enjoyed reading it. It really took me a day to read, although I read half in the evening and half the next morning, but it was an enjoyable Western. Hey, Teddy, what do you think about the turtle? What do you think about a turtle, Teddy? I finished listening to an audiobook, Reborn, the Adversary Cycle, Book 4 by F. Paul Wilson. This is a horror novel, and it's a really unusual setup for a horror series. Originally, F. Paul Wilson wrote a book called The Keep in the 80s. This was set during World War II. A bunch of Nazis were set to guard this castle on the Romanian mountains. But there was an evil entity in this castle. It was a really good book. But you read that book, and I first read it back in the early 90s, you say, oh, this book is done. And then F. Paul Wilson wrote two other independent horror novels called The Tomb and The Touch. And you read those, you say, oh, those are good books. No connection between those books whatsoever. With Reborn, F. Paul Wilson is uniting those three books together to form a new series that he called the Adversary Cycle. And you do sort of have to read at least The Keep to get this story right when you start on Reborn, because there are some characters in this book that are just not going to make sense unless you know who they are. He does not tell you in Reborn. It's possible you could read it without reading The Keep. I think it's better to read The Keep. But anyway, Reborn is the story of an orphan. He was raised by a Jesuit's orphanage, and he was dropped off as a baby one night and immediately adopted. And this is a story that takes place when he's in his mid to late 20s. He is married. He is a journalist. He's a wannabe horror writer. And he finds out that he's going to inherit millions and millions of dollars from a very rich man on Long Island. Now, this character, Jim, also lived on Long Island. And he suddenly just says, is this my secret father? Because he never found out who his parents were, and he always wanted to know. And yes, he does inherit millions of dollars. This is set in 1968, and he inherited $8 million, which was still a lot of money now, but a huge amount of money back then. And the story takes off from there. I'm not going to give you any more details, but I really enjoyed this as a story. There are a few plot lines that don't seem to go anywhere, but they may go somewhere in the next two books, which are Reprisal and Night World. Now, I read this entire Adversary cycle, again, back in the early 90s, and I sort of know where it's going, and I really enjoy it, so I'm looking forward to the next two books, which I will also be listening to on audio. On my morning walk, I noticed that there was a turtle crossing the road. It is not an especially busy road, but I decided to pick up the turtle and carry him across the roadway to his destination. I have been told that when you move turtles off the road, you are supposed to carry them in the direction that they were going, because maybe they'll decide to turn around and go where they wanted to go. Try not to move them too far from where you found them, because turtles are very territorial. And this is probably either a male searching for a female or a female searching for a place to lay her eggs. I am making progress with Ulysses. I have finished chapter 12, and I have to admit that James Joyce may have been a genius of a writer, but I feel like I'm walking uphill with this book, that I'm struggling, that there is just too much that he is packing into this book. And I really don't want to lift that weight and look into everything that he's trying to squeeze in and just read this on the surface. And I'm discovering that the surface is just the surface. And it's becoming a bit of a drag for me. I definitely want to finish this book, because finishing this book is going to be an achievement in and of itself, but I don't know if I'll actually end up liking this book. Okay, that is a wrap for the week ending June 22nd. On to the final week of June. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.